Many thanks, Timothy Yusuf, for the conversation we have on our hands. And to begin, let me introduce here in the studio Dr. Clinton Ikpitibo, who is Secretary General, Nigerian Union of Teachers. It's a pleasure to welcome you once again to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
We also have with us Dr. Philip Hayab, who is educationist. As usual, is always here to discuss, important, pertinent issues with us. Dr. Hayab, good to have you.
Good morning, Nigerians. Happy World Teachers' Day to teachers and to all of us in the studio. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Happy World Teachers' Day, Dr. Ikpitibo.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, let's start with you. I mean, you are the Secretary General, Nigerian Union of Teachers. Let's look at the theme, the global theme for this year's celebration, which is recasting teaching as a collaborative profession. No doubt it enjoins stakeholders to invest and support the teaching profession. So to what's your view? Let's have your view on this theme.
Yeah, thank you very much. You've said it all. In fact, when I first of all listened to the report, I think the theme that was mentioned there wasn't actually the exact one.
Okay.
I was to even start by way of correcting it, but you said it all.
Yeah.
So recasting teaching as a collaborative profession. That's the theme of the year's the World Teachers' Day. And to collaborate in the job of teaching is self-explanatory. The society is growing. There was a time that the teacher was looked upon like somebody who has all knowledge within him. Okay? Like the reservoir of all knowledge will stand before these children and dish out, But today, I think the world is growing with the changing, issues or challenges of around the education landscape. It's been advised globally that the teaching job has to be collaborative. The teacher himself cannot only be doing it alone. The children that we have today, sometimes based on technology, could even be more, informed than yourselves. And so we are now talking about the situation where I know the teaching as a profession has to be one that will promote, inquiry, promote critical thinking, promote innovations, at least to be in line with the demands of the 21st century. And I think in that regard, there are things to be done to bring about that collaboration, starting from the initial training. At least teachers are trained by institutions. The universities and the colleges of education today that are bringing out the teachers to be in the classrooms, well, that is the beginning point of it. Today we are talking about technology in education. And if we must talk about technology, we are talking about artificial intelligence and so on. In the curriculum of these universities and colleges of education, that has to be built in. Our teachers must have that skill, that knowledge of being well equipped to come out to our classrooms with that technology to support them. And that is the beginning of it. And for us to do that, we must ensure that the teaching itself has been brought to be an attractive profession. Teaching has been said to be aging. While we appreciate the knowledge of those elders that are there to bring about mentoring to the younger ones that will be coming in, it is very clear, a fact that is evidence-based, that the young ones are not attracted to the teaching profession. And what do we do? Because today, as we speak, we have states, we have localities, we have communities that are having 1, 2, 3 teachers in the whole primary schools. So how do we now attract, younger ones to be in this profession? A profession that is very important. The foundation, we call it the mother of all professions. For anybody to become anything else in society must pass through the teachers.
Yeah.
And so we need to give it the needed encouragement. Here we are talking about collaboration. How far is the community playing its role to support the teachers? How far are stakeholders, the government, and so on? So for it to be a collaborative profession, the needs of the teachers and the needs of the society must be clearly identified and be approached. Not about saying, today we are going technology, we are going global. And so there cannot be any education system that will be said to be doing what it's necessarily needed to be done when we do not think about the problems of society. And so as we speak, while we talk about the globalization and then how we could talk about bringing technology into education, what are the fundamentals at the grassroots? Where the teachers are found in every village, in every remote area. What are those problems? Because education must be there as an objective to, main objective is to solve the problems of society. What are those things there? We must identify them. And then we must bring the teachers up to date by way of improving their skills and their knowledge to be at par with the growing, in fact, the knowledge-based society of today. And that is what we are talking about. And so in a nutshell, this year's World Teachers' Day theme, talking about collaborative, profession that the teaching should be, it's talking about how we could bring about the teachers' training that will develop them to be able to bring about critical thinking in the children, should be able to bring about innovations in the system, should be able to, solve problems, identify the issues, the challenges, the changing world of today. There are a lot of things that are brought about a change, even in the education and landscape. How do we bring those teachers to be at par, to be able to measure with teachers in every other territory or country in the world, and to see that our problems, the problems of our own children, our societies, and the country at large is being solved?
All right. Dr. Ikpitibo, thank you very much for laying the groundwork for this conversation. Let me get to Dr. Hayab. Now, when we talk about support system for teachers, where do you think the biggest gaps lie? Is it in training, infrastructure, welfare, or even policy?
That's a big question. So thank you. The support system for teachers actually is multifaceted. But if you ask me based on my interactions with teachers here and there, particularly those who are already in service, those in service we will say it is a welfare. Those who are pre-service, still in training, then we can talk about other things. My colleague here just talked about the young people not being interested in joining the teaching profession. If you do a survey as to why, you will not find training and retraining. What will come first would be the welfare. So the welfare of the teacher is a big issue. Not even just the teacher at the primary, the basic level. Even teachers, those of us who are teacher trainers, if not because I do work and I'm paid as a consultant, to teach at a college of education now, in some colleges of education, what you take home is not supposed to go home. It's not enough to be a take home.
Cannot take you home.
Cannot take you home. So it's a problem. And once you do not take care of a person, we say when teachers are hungry, what would they do? They will eat the students. That's what it means. And by implication means they will not teach as they should. They will not mentor as they should. So I will place the issue of welfare as first. But then it is a policy issue. So it is interwoven. What is the understanding?
So the policy welfare.
Yeah, the policy welfare. Now, what is happening?
Or the welfare policy.
Or the welfare policy. One of the challenges we have that I have witnessed in Nigeria is that even when professors from universities become the ministers of education, we tend to even have more complicated issues. So it's also another problem that I think we do not tend to see is what is our mindset towards the teacher? How do we view the teacher? When I grew up, the teacher was like the person that everybody was... everybody revered the teacher. So when you commit an offense, your parents will say, I will tell your teacher. Now, for your parents to want to tell your teacher what you did means that even your parents have some, they are less in pedigree in terms of comparison at that time to the teacher. And every child feared their teachers. You know, today the teacher is a scorn for most of them. Some of them who have been able to be very proactive, not just relying on what they get as teachers, are the ones who still have some form of pedigree. So once we don't take care of this, we have a problem. Then we already, like he said, the training itself, the pre-service training of teachers in Nigeria is faulty. Before you get to the teaming group that is already there, who had already been employed. Now, people who go to the colleges of education, what kind of people are they that go to them? So it's also the status of the profession. We talked about this matter here when JAM released its cutoff marks and said when you have 100, you can go to the college of education. When you have 180, you go to the university. So who is going to help the children next tomorrow that will go to the university? The one with 100? So, and all these issues are actually tied to policies to a large extent. I think the way we perceive the teaching profession in Nigeria has a problem, and we have to do something about it. Or else, with the way I'm seeing on the field, when you interact with teachers now, the youngest teachers or the young teachers in comparison to the old do not just have the benefit of experience, but they have quality that they came with. Amongst the young, you're going to find only the exceptional ones, because you always have people who will survive a system, however bad it is. But the highest group are the group that are incompetent, and it will take a lot of training and retraining, and also the motivation from the teacher himself or herself to be able to step up. So we do have a multifaceted situation. If you say recast, it means that there was casting. If things were okay before, our teachers actually taught us using a collaborative approach, community, teacher, and everyone. Then all of a sudden, the teacher was left alone. Some parents even go to the school and reprimand the teacher for, or maybe shout at the teacher for reprimanding their children. Now, all those have actually helped in setting us backwards. So children can read and write, but what is their affective domain? What's their attitude towards people in society? And so if an education system cannot transform people and make them better citizens, that education system is faulty. So the status of the teacher actually impacts on the kind of training the teacher, the kind of command of respect that the teacher has, that he or she could correct a learner, and the learner would take it to be that this is a voice that is higher than what I understand. Let me change my life. So we need to have, maybe go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, where do we project to be in the next 50 years? Then it will bring us to policy review, which will impact on all the issues that have been highlighted, welfare, training and retraining and all that. How can a teacher be teaching for 10 years and has not attended a training? So one of the things I ask when I go out to train teachers is that if you have a telephone today, a smartphone, and you do not update it up to 6 months, will the telephone work? They'll say, no, it won't work, it will malfunction. I say, then you that have not come for training and retraining, you are malfunctioning.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Haya, for your, opening remarks there. The perception of the perception of teaching profession now is really, really, really very worrisome. And just like you said, the policy, government policies, and other factors are really posing a big challenge to the teaching profession. And how do we begin to correct all these, these perceptions? What role do government policies, play in supporting or hindering teaching profession in Nigeria? Just like he noted, a lot of things are happening. When we're young, the moment they say, Demola, your teacher is coming like this, we say, teacher and boy. That kind of a thing where we're so fearful, and we respect, not just fear, but the respect is there. But it's no longer there any longer. It's no there. Again, we don't have that, reverence for teachers, respect. Nobody wants to go into the teaching profession, just like he said. When 100% cutoff mark is for teachers and 180 for other, profession. What are we talking about here?
Okay, thank you very much. When we are talking about the support system for teaching profession, it has to do with a combination of means, tools, and even strategies that will bring about effectiveness of teaching and learning process. And that itself will tell you that a lot has to be done. Yeah, and like when I was talking about the introductory aspect of it, talking about the theme of the year's World Teachers Day, I made reference to the initial training. That does not mean that is the whole thing. But that is the beginning. You have to prepare the teachers to be ready, to be fit into the classroom or wherever they are doing their job. But again, we have to also think about the employment of the teachers. Here we are. Some of us, by the time we are really wanting to become teachers, as a person, in all reverse, let me say, I had to sit for about 2 times an interview to be able to pass and become a teacher. But today, when we are talking about employment, engagement of teachers, it is political patronage, particularly at the local government level, the primary level. Who is that person who carried my ballot box or my ballot paper and voted for me? So any and everybody can be brought into the teaching profession. And that is why NUT, we've always been working with the Teacher Registration Council of Nigeria to jealously guide our own profession to ensure that only those who are professionally trained and are qualified, licensed by the TROCN, should be found within the 4 walls of our classrooms. And so that is also a problem. The area of employment is still faulty because we are not bringing in the best. Then going beyond that level, the attraction we are talking about, how do we come about bringing people? There are people naturally, they need the job of teaching, not because of the financial benefits, but because of the importance of this very profession, because it has to do with transforming human beings, mankind, transforming society. Until we understand the importance of teaching as a profession, we will not be able to give it its due place in society, the pride of place that the teaching belongs. And so the society, both parents and everybody, like my co-discussant mentioned, I am a victim of a situation where I was a teacher in the secondary school, and in an attempt to, make students to do what is right, and those that could not perform, they failed. In fact, a mob attack came from a community. Say, why are you people making our children to fail? That is where we are. As against those days when teachers were given the role of those disciplinarians. They could correct. If you have a child that is erring, you hand over to a teacher. That regard, that respect from the society itself is a motivating factor. But today, what respect do we have? And that has to be tied to also our own value system and the economic, ties to it. In other words, teachers have to be given their due place by way of even the remuneration. They should be given what is due them. And that is why when NUT tried to raise some issues about some years ago, 2020 specifically, the government of late President Muhammadu Buhari approved some welfare packages, including special salary scale for teachers, talked about retirement age, because governments, particularly a situation where we have education in the concurrent legislative list, where governors and local governments have some role to play in education, they are refusing to employ teachers when our own classrooms are empty. We felt that it was also necessary that we allow those brains, those experienced ones who are not tired, to be allowed to continue. So we requested for an improved, in fact, an upgrade in the retirement age from 60 to 65, and then service years from 35 to 40. That approval was made by Buhari. But as we speak, in fact, it was an act of parliament. It went to that level. But as we speak, about 22 states have implemented, but the remaining ones are still not yet approved. We talked about, like I said, other, those teaching in the rural areas. What can we do to motivate them? Rural posting allowance. You go to now the state capitals, the wives of anybody that could say is well-to-do is centered within the state capital working. While you go to, in those places, you see one subject area, call it mathematics. You could have 5, 6 teachers. Go to the local areas, the rural areas, you don't find any. particularly the science areas. Then what about the resources, the facilities? In fact, when I entered what is called secondary school in the 70s, it was a local school, but with library and so on. My name, Clinton, I was wondering how it came about. How I came about knowing what Clinton was meant to. It was in a library in the local school, a live school library, that I was able to see an encyclopedia. I opened it and I saw Clinton and I read, and the root came from America. You see, these are the things, but are we having those facilities in our schools today? The attraction that we can make, the conducive environment for teachers to deliver optimally their best. These are the things we are talking about. Today we have schools in the rural areas where children are sitting on the floor, bare floor, under shade, trees and so on. And we only, but most times, pay lip service. We're talking about funding. Today, as we speak, we say this one was about 7%. But internationally speaking, the benchmark for funding education is 6% of the GDP of a country, or 20% of the national budget. Where are we? A far cry from this benchmark that is known and recognized internationally.
So how is the NUT engaging with the government to resolve these issues, including others like low remuneration, delayed salaries, and pension challenges?
Thank you very much. And that is the work we do every day and night. But the truth is, you could be doing your best, but where the government or those in authority are not having the listening ears, you find it very difficult. Like I was talking about what Buhari approved, it was as a result of issues raised by the NUT. And we have been working with the government, to be sincere. But one thing we also find out is that the bulk of the schools, when you talk about the basic education, that's the area that the NUT covers, primary, secondary. Now, bulk of the schools are owned and managed by the states and local governments. You could be at this point, because the federal government has that responsibility of setting the standards. You could be at this point to make your own laws and then your own standards. The implementation level at the state level is where the problem is. So every day, that is the job we do. We call ourselves a trade unionism, and that the struggle continues. Every day, like this World Chess Day we are talking about, from Abuja to all the 36 states and FCT, simultaneously the thing was going on. If you go into the addresses, dished out by the leadership of the NUT, is about stock taking. What is wrong in the system? What government can do to bring about the needed change? So it's the message we send every day. Like NUT, we have a program that we call Go Public Fund Education. It is an international advocacy program that we have launched in this country, and we are going around. We've launched it at the national level here, even the state. Recently, we are in Lagos, incorporating Osun State, Edo State, and so on. What we say is that government should try best to give the needed attention to education, to ensure that even if not meeting up that internationally recognized benchmark for funding education, get closer to it. Every year we can be improving. But we are here every day singing, telling us stories, lip service, that education. If we really mean well for the future of the young ones who are expected to be our leaders tomorrow, I think we can do more for education. And so to answer your question, every day, that is the story we've been. And that's why sometimes you find us going even to the level of declaring strikes. Strike is not the best. If you go on strike, you are depriving even those children who are supposed to be in the school to get the little. But when we see that people are paying us deaf ears, they don't want to listen.
It becomes the last resort.
Yeah, the last resort.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ikpitibo. Let me get back to Dr. Hayab. He talked a bit about disrespect of teachers. How would you say this erosion of respect for teachers is affecting outcomes in education in Nigeria?
Yeah, it does. It does affect the outcome. So any work you do anywhere in the world, once that job does not have the pedigree that it deserves, it actually impacts on the person who does the job and then also the outcome of the job. It's not just the teachers, but we're talking about the teachers. When we were children, we knew who the police was in this country. If you look at the pedigree of the police in the street, you would see that also we have come to a point in our country where service to humanity is not actually that which is remunerated. It is economic basis. So somebody works at the CBN, even if he was a cleaner, he's likely going to get more recognition than you as a teacher when you meet in your community. Maybe because they get a lot of pay. So if there is a lunch of anything in your community, the person who works at the CBN is likely going to give more money than you, more than what you are earning. So you can't give as much that the person is given. The same thing with an NPC. Even the hospitals, the pedigree that doctors used to have before is no longer there.
Yeah.
So I think there is a question of economics in our country. Everything in Nigeria seems to have been tied to money. Once you have money in this country, yes, once you have money in this country, even if this money is proven to have been stolen, you are likely to be the most prestigious. So people who take money, loot money, they are becoming illustrious sons and daughters of their community with titles, who are given titles. And then those of us who are serving as teachers, as in the media here, we barely get something. So that is where it happens. So the teacher loses. There's something in the inside of a person that pushes the person to work. So the first thing, it is job satisfaction first, then, but the economics always will play out in the job satisfaction. So when I joined the teaching profession, my salary was 12,000 naira. Yeah, I'm not an old person. I joined the teaching profession only in 2005. But I was very committed to the job. It's no self-praise. I knew that by the time I left that school, and 5 years later, I knew that most students who went to study English were more than 45. And I tried to take a stock to ask them, why did you, they say, since we met you, our perception of the discipline of the field of English studies changed. So that is what the teacher can do. As I went up to the College of Education, I now got double my salary. So at that time, I could work. I hold lectures. I had lectures on Saturdays. I had lectures 7 a.m. in the morning. So I still had a drive inside. But by the time I earned a master's, I earned a PhD, and I was underpaid by that College of Education, I resigned. So I'm a victim. I resigned because as a PhD holder, I was supposed to earn far much more than what I was earning. But then here was I, in a local school that my input was not being, appreciated. Despite that drive in the inside of me, I welled up. The well just dried up. I could not continue. So what the teacher gets impacts on what the teacher does. And anybody, a laborer deserves his or her wages. Until we get to that point, so he was talking about governors or chairmen not paying attention. It is sad and it is unfortunate because this education at the basic level is not for today. It's what Neo Shundari will say, eating tomorrow's yam. When he talks about eating tomorrow's yam, we're eating the seedlings. So the seedlings for tomorrow, actually these children in the basic education, until they are able to read and write today, it means that in the next 20 years, you don't have a workforce for that state. The governor would have been old, or the chairman would been gone, and nobody even knows where they are, with a lot of money that they might have stashed for themselves. But these teachers who are supposed to be motivated, teachers, it's not just about the salary. When they are promoted, sir, this is what I know. Teachers can get promoted on paper for 7, 10 years. Anybody, we have facts. You know that, sir. A teacher gets promoted from level 7 to level 8, and he's on that on paper, no single kobo added to the pay. And some of them, they will get to level 13 and they are still being paid level 9. So it gets to a point where they say, to hell with the system, am I the only one who is Nigerian? So this is where the problem is. We need to get to a point where we are truthful about these matters. Like, this is my honest self. If I were the one that were to be in this position and I've been promoted for 7 years and there is no economic benefit to it, what will be my reaction? So until we get to this point where the change begins with me mantra works, we will just be coming and talking, and then we are not moving forward. I know that in Kaduna State, the teachers are actually, threatening to go on strike. That is my state. I know the value of the teachers in my state. I know the value of teachers everywhere, because in that community was where I went to school and I learned how to read. Now, teachers don't have, I'm not sure their salary is anything beyond 70,000. That is minimum wage. And I'm not sure they are being paid even that. Right. And then they see other people in their community who become counselors, who can barely write their names, or even speak. And then after 1, 2, 3 months, they drive in a car, and then this teacher has been working for 20 years and nothing to show. Do you mean this teacher is going to be satisfied and feel that he's been treated fairly? The answer is automatically no. So we need to get to this point where the teaching profession is not just returned to its pedigree, talking about recasting, collaboration. All these things will work when the teachers feel motivated. But once the teachers are not motivated, give them the best of classes, they are unlikely to deliver.
Wow. That's really, really an important issue now. How do we get the teachers motivated? Because that is where the major challenge is.
Yeah.
And people have talked about that maybe teachers should be placed on special salary scale,
yeah,
or benefits, package for Nigerian teachers. If you do that, what will be the implication?
Of course, it is a given that it will definitely motivate them and help them to put in their best. And it's just not about what we get from the system in form of money.
Is it only about money?
It is not just about money.
That is just...
If you look at this very theme of the World Child's Day, it is very, very apt.
Yeah.
When we talk about recasting, you see, like, what actually, kind of moved some of us to come into this profession was what we saw about the teacher in the society. That's the truth.
The passage.
In those days, the teachers training college, for you to get into that school, you will have grants, school fees. In fact, in the boarding school, you'll be fed free. You will even get some grants to buy your books and the rest of that. That was clear, purposeful, a strategy to attract people into the profession, knowing how important the profession is. Today, what is the situation? So if we are recasting, we must also go back to that level where people can be encouraged to be, if you want to become a teacher, to enter into any school that will train you as, under education faculty, you should be given some encouragement. Okay? Like the students that are already there, we could help them with bursaries. You understand? And when you are employed, in those days, communities, I participated, will build even as local communities for teachers within primary school compounds. Today we talked about low-cost buildings to be provided for teachers in the local areas as approved by Buhari. What has been done? Teachers need these incentives. You understand? And talking about the remuneration too, that special salary scale is what NUT has been fighting for over the years. Even when the 27.5 allowances something was approved, till this day there are some states that are still sitting on it. This minimum wage we are talking about that was approved as an act of parliament last year, we still have about 10 states that are yet to implement for teachers in this country. Either they are haphazardly implementing or none at all. These are the situations we find ourselves. And so the truth is, if you think education is costly, try ignorance. And if you get into every system, every locality, you find a teacher. That is to tell you that they are not enjoying that very pleasure of being in house, air-conditioned houses and so on. What they are there to do is to see that the children from those localities see light tomorrow. That is the essence of the teaching job. And until our society, the government appreciates that invaluable role played by teachers to transform mankind and society, we can never get it. And so all we are saying is more attention should be given to education and the teaching profession. And that is our own campaign today. that funding, that is everything revolves around funding. Where you do not give the needed, financial backing to the system, we will be getting it wrong. And so we are still preaching the same gospel over the years, that teachers should be given more attention, the education system should be given more attention, enough funding should be given, and our own classrooms, the environment should be made conducive for teaching and learning to be done in such a way that our children will benefit, our society will benefit. We are, at the end of it all, we are talking about the learning outcomes. What comes out from our own job. We are not talking about the system where we are training children that today we talk about learning poverty. There are children in the class, you call them, say they are going to school, but they don't learn anything. And that is because the system allows that to be. A situation where you find a teacher manning, is the headmaster, is the second master, is the classroom teacher. There are schools like that in this country. Yes. 2, 3 teachers manning a whole school. This is there. And to cap it off, I'm very pleased to see my old colleague, the registrar of TROCN, and that's why earlier I made the statement here that we work with TROCN to ensure that the right persons are doing the job of teaching.
All right, let me put you on hold since you have let the cat out of the bag. Let's welcome Dr. Runke Shoyombo, who is Registrar and Chief Executive of the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for inviting me this morning.
Now, when we talk about support system for the teaching profession, for teachers, how is TRCN working with professionals, teaching professionals to ensure that not only do we get the best hands on the job, but that we also attract the best from government and communities for the teaching profession?
Thank you very much, sir. The key thing is, whatever decision TRCN is taking, we've got to remember the child is at the heart of it all. And how is that decision going to have impact on the children? So number one thing that TRCN is doing at the moment is we are working with quite a lot of other agencies to see how we can have lesson plans, because subject knowledge has been an issue for so long in Nigeria. Teachers' competency has been an issue. And to me, you will see that the theme of this year's Teachers' Day is very, very good, because it's talking about collaboration. It's talking about where we have the strengths, we can use the strength to actually overcome the weaknesses. So we are having teachers supporting teachers at the moment, and that's something that is really going to be rolled out before the end of the year, where we have lesson plans to support them, so that because what we're planning at the moment is our teachers have got to be on the right level to be able to be benchmarked with the international world. Because if we're not careful, we'll be churning out wrong children. And so teaching and learning is very, very key for us. So what we're doing is, how can we raise the standard of teaching and learning in our classes? And to do that, we are working on AI lesson plan generated platform, where every teacher will be able to access us, because it's one thing for them to be part of TRCN, is another thing for them to be resourced as well. Okay. So with that, every teacher will be able to, if, for example, you're teaching digestion, we don't just want you to see a lesson plan that has differentiated lessons. We also want you to have simulations that will help lessons, so that clearly you see how the food gets into the esophagus and how it gets digested. Because with that, it makes every teacher to be able to explain things better, and it will not just help children. This is an exercise I have done in another part of the world before. It doesn't just help the children to add to learning, but it helps the teachers as well. So with that, what they're teaching in Katsina will be the same thing that we're teaching in Lagos. And I'm sure quite a lot of, we've got bits of schools who are already doing this. But we want to see how we can actually bring this more to all the 36 states of Nigeria and FCT.
Are schools fully equipped for this? Because I mean,
I'm going to come into that in a minute. Because don't forget that we also have teachers that don't have the digital literacy. With that, we've got some lesson plans written by outstanding teachers so that teachers can go to any of our offices, download this, and teach their children. Because at the end of the day, if we can get teaching and learning right first, that's something that the Honorable Minister is seriously working on to make sure that standard is very, very good for what is expected in classes. Another thing is, you will see that, part of the event that we had, I think we had that about 5 days ago with NUT, was collaboration. And that was well received by NUT because we're looking on how teachers can collaborate more, because in every school there are teachers with strengths and there are teachers that are weak. But if we can all collaborate together, we can plan lessons together, we can do a lot of things, because we've got some cream teachers in our schools, in our public schools, in our private schools that are underutilized. And how can we bring them together? I must tell you that no matter what we say, in terms of resources that you're going into, sir, we don't have enough resources in all our schools. However, some schools are beginning to have that. And that's something that we're propagating, that if people want to support schools today, they should support us with digitized equipment, if you see what I mean. So that's something we're seriously propagating. And also, UBEC is also focusing on that, on how teachers can be well equipped in classes. And with that as well, it will go a long way. However, we cannot finish everything overnight. But we are on the right track with that.
How do you reach out for this support system?
To reach out for the support system, if I take myself back to when I was in state, when I was under a state, because I was the first DG in Lagos State for quality assurance before moving to Ogun State. And what we did was, when I got to Ogun State, I realized that only 7 schools had computers out of 2024. And what we did was, we now started in cluster areas to be raising awareness and for support. And people were supporting. And when you have one ICT suite set up to actually feed 7 to 8 schools, children were receiving that well. And it was actually adding a lot of values to the children. Because at the end of the day, you must start pouring that water, because one day it will become a notion. What is not good is for you not to do anything at all, or for you to just be castigating. We've got to do something about Nigerian education. There's no doubt about it that there's decadence in education. There is a need for education to be at the front burner of everybody's decision, that how can we actually come out of this? And this is something that I believe that this government is doing. Because with the renewed hope, you will see that under nursery, we've got the 6 pillars. Digitization and data is number 1. And we are doing a lot with Dr. Moruf Alausa to see how we can empower our schools in order to have IT resources, and also to educate our teachers as well with digital literacy.
But how do you achieve all of this if the foundation is weak? Dr. Ikpitibo had said earlier that hiring teaching professionals is based on political patronage. It could be just a political thug that is brought into the system. How are you going to build something on nothing?
Well, it depends, because when it comes to things like that, we have to be very careful that we're not generalizing things. Because I'll take a state, for example. Recently I was in Enugu. And what Enugu did in terms of building their smart schools, they built about 256 smart schools. I may be wrong with the figure now. But they wanted teachers that would be very good for smart schools. And what we did was a career path for 19,250 teachers. With that, we were able to identify teachers that have been in the system. You may have been in the system in the last 30 years. You may still be on very low level of standard. And on the other hand, you may be in the system in the last 20 years. You may have actually acquired a lot of skills into yourself. So we were able to identify for them teachers that are suitable to go to those smart city schools. Because in as much as we can say we've hired wrong hands, there are still some great teachers in schools, And I've been part of teachers' recruitment process in both Lagos State and Ogun State. And I know that you cannot come to those states if you don't actually sit for exams. You know, we sit for exam and we identify that before going into the second stage of learning, really. I mean, second stage of interview. And also, you will see that with TRCN, if I come back to TRCN, when I joined about 4 months ago, we realized that we were testing on about 23 subjects. No matter how good you are, sir, you may not be able to pass well if it's not objective for 23 subjects. And what we have done is to slim that down now to just 5 subjects of what will make impact in classes. Yeah. And that is the maths, literacy, we're doing digital literacy as well, safeguarding, and pedagogy. Because with that, if teachers can go on a website now, conveniently they can see a lot of resources that will help their learning. And if they can read very well and practicalize what they're reading, because we're not just looking for people that will come and sit for exam and pass. We're looking for people that have practicalized good things, and those are the kind of things we're looking for. And with that, it's going to make a lot of changes. And I must tell you that federal government has actually done a lot now with teachers, because with teachers now that will be coming, they come for the exam, but at the same time, there are teachers out there who are not qualified teachers, even though they are teaching our children. Because 60%, I must say, are still in private schools. And we are supposed to be very holistic in our thoughts. We're not looking at just the public school children alone. We're looking at public and private school children. And what can we do? Because most teachers in private schools are not qualified teachers. However, it doesn't mean that they don't have good subject knowledge. Subject knowledge might be very, very good. And that's what we're propagating is, let's go into pedagogy. Break it down. We're 5 here. We can have gifted and talented people on the seat. We can have middle ability, and we can have the less able. We've got to personalize teaching and ensure that every child is being cared for. And so what is the government doing about that? What we're doing at the moment is we're looking at a professional diploma in education. How can we accelerate our teachers? So that's the accelerated program we're introducing, which is going to be like 6 months for every teacher, every experienced teacher in the classroom to be able to come for that. And when they do the professional diploma in education, they will be able to sit for our exam, for Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria exam. By the time they sit for that, that will make a lot of teachers, a lot of good teachers to actually come on board. So there are quite a lot of things. We cannot nip it on the board overnight, but I believe we are on the right track in ensuring that teachers are well supported, teachers are well cared for, and we raise the profile of teachers as well.
All right. I think, thank you for the thoughts you have espoused. We have responses coming in from our viewers. Perhaps we just begin from here. This one reads, I am Abbas Abubakar Saad from Jalingo in Taraba State. Says the importance of teaching cannot be overemphasized. One of the most joyous moments of my life is whenever I see my teachers. On the other hand, he says, it saddens me deeply whenever I see what teachers are going through. To support the system, we must give the teaching profession the priority it deserves. Unfortunately, many universities, students admitted into education programs are often those with deficiencies in other courses. Okay? And another one reads, if the teaching profession is made attractive, it will automatically become competitive, like in Japan, China, USA, etc. Another one from SG Thompson in Yola, Adamawa State, said, commendation to NTA for the good work. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you. I want you to commend the education minister for the good reform he is making in the education sector, and to speak to him directly to listen to our prayers. 1, reintroduce the teachers' colleges, which was the backbone of primary education standards in Nigeria in the early 60s to 80s, before it was scrapped, which I believe he also benefited from. 2, welfare of teachers and retraining, educational teaching aids, and befitting accommodation like before cannot be compromised. We hope the minister would seriously look into it. Happy Teachers Day, he says. And finally, from me, from Osho James Aunduakula from Lesser Benue State. Leadership at every level of education is very important and can drive the necessary reforms in education if properly placed, be it minister, commissioner, etc. A practical example is what transpired at Benue State Universal Basic Education Board, where 9,700 primary school teachers were employed on merit, CBT in brackets. And members of the State House of Assembly felt they were not carried along. The good news is that the woman at Subeb got the support of the governor and the recruitment was successfully carried out as planned. So when you get the right leadership, interference from politicians may not necessarily affect the right educational decisions. It reads.
Well, I think maybe you should just respond to that before we go on break. Or better still, let's just hold on.
Okay.
We'll go on break now.
Okay.
When we return, you respond to that. Then I'll now read some of the comments that we have. So stay with us. We'll take our break now. Good morning, Nigeria, on the network service of the NTA. And we are still talking about our guests are still here, and he's talking about the teaching profession. Before we went on break, Dr. Shiyombo was going to respond to some of the questions and comments raised by some of our viewers. Please, you can go ahead now.
Thank you very much. Somebody actually mentioned that we should go back to CTC. TTC, Teacher Training College.
Yeah.
Well, Teacher Training College made a lot of impact into education. However, with what we have now, you will see that we're even upgrading ourselves with NC, National College of Education, and now we're upgrading all around. So to me, all those things will still work well. But at the same time, that depends on the policy of the government. But I mean, I'm not saying no to it. Then another person talked about the welfare of teachers. The welfare of teachers is actually at the front burner of the renewed hope system, because you will see that teachers are prioritized in every state, ensuring that they get their salaries on time. How much is what the concern is, because in some states, some teachers are actually on the minimum wage, but some teachers are not in some other states. So that's something that we're seriously propagating for, that teachers must be, because now that we're on the concurrent list as well, teachers must be given the attention that they deserve. They must be given good support in terms of welfare, and that's something that we won't actually relent of our effort in talking about.
And leadership, somebody talked about leadership. Earlier I had raised that issue with you, recruitment and how politicians interfere. And he mentioned how the governor insisted, because there was somebody at Subeb who was not going to pander to the State House of Assembly. How important is that? Because that's what you see.
And that's something that we don't joke with as well, because if leadership is right, if you can actually have the vision that you want to raise the standard of education, you will see that from the top, that would always support everybody at all levels. So it's very important that we have right leadership, and for leaders to actually see that education should be given that priority at all times. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I have some comments, and do you want to respond to some of those comments?
I think,
Okay.
Thank you. I have to say that the NUT, like I used to say, we've been working together with TROCN, because we are teachers, it's our profession, and the TROCN is established to bring about the needed control of the teaching profession, and so like NUT has 5 slots on the board of the TROCN. That is the level where we work together. And so most of their programs, we are in tandem with them. Okay. The only thing I will say here is that let us be very clear. We are talking about our children and the future of this country. It's not about saying policies. There have always been very good policies turned out. Every government, even though we have this inconsistency in policy making, somersaults, this one will come change to another one, and these things are there. But nobody can say that we do not have good education policies. But the issue is implementation. As we speak, when even the National Policy on Education talked about NCE, the Nigeria Certificate in Education, as the minimum, very many states over the years we are still having grade 2 teachers because we are not able to force the state governments to do otherwise. Though today it is better, but I'm talking about the past.
Okay.
That is an example to tell you that the best of policies can be made, but implementation is where we have the problems.
Okay.
As we are talking here at the federal level, we have always said that the federal government is setting the standards, trying to see. I was making reference to approvals made by the former President Buhari. But how far are those things implemented at the state level?
So the implementation is just
a
major
challenge.
challenge.
That is the point.
All right. Okay, let me read out some of these comments from our viewers. This one is from Akeju Olagbaju. It says, a nation that fails to recognize the need to embrace and encourage teaching as knowledge and social driver will remain static to produce good leaders. This one is from Chike Dim from Warri, Delta State. The creation of humanity is a divine endeavor and is the tireless efforts of teachers that refine and elevate us through intellectual development. This crucial distinction is what sets us apart from other creatures. We wholeheartedly commend teachers for their invaluable contributions. To those in positions of authority, we urge you to provide teachers with the necessary support system to excel in their noble profession. Deji Atolani says, the government has not done enough for teachers in various states. The prestige and accolades that teachers once received have faded away. We need to revitalize the education system to attract the best talent. Many retired teachers are struggling to survive on a bare minimum. Imagine someone who retired in 2016 and received a gratuity of 1.2 million in August. It's alarming to think about how little that amount is worth today. This one is IK watching from Cross River State. It's a brilliant submission from Doctor from Kaduna there. Well done. That's the truth. He's speaking reality and from experience as an insider. Motivation is key. Good morning, Nigeria. My name is Yusuf Sharif from Maiduguri. Here, the government is building beautiful structures that are much more better than private school structures. But teachers employed are low of standard. They are of low standard. Most of these teachers in government schools cannot communicate in simple and correct English. Our quality schools, all about beautiful structures without the right human resources to impact knowledge. That's the big question. The subnationals need to do more. Then this one says, good morning all. I'm happy with the discussion so far. Thanks to the doctors in the studio. I grew up with a strong flair for teaching, made the best result in my secondary school, but was discouraged by one of my teachers. He begged me not to make the mistake. Can you imagine that? He begged me not to make the mistake they made. That is choosing the teaching profession. The story has not changed. The story has not changed. A head of director in a federal university recently resigned for a political office that will not last for more than 4 years. That's for Lucius Tinat. My name is Bapa Manu. My wonder is where I am teaching, the enrollment is over 200 students, but only 3 teachers. How do we expect the standard of, what do we expect from the standard of your school? Dr. Hayab, you want to respond to some before Dr. Shiombo will respond?
So this is key. The pupil per teacher ratio is one of one of the things that keeps coming up. Yeah, that some states have done well in terms of teacher recruitment does not mean that we have a good percentage of states doing that. The other thing is for the person in SUBEB to be able to stand on his or her ground. I'm not quite sure who the SUBEB chair is. There's a likelihood the person is qualified. Maybe the person has gone to school and the person is not afraid of losing the job and they can pick up somewhere. But most of the states, the SUBEB chairs are not people who have actually done anything to do with education. I mean, it is on record. They should come and challenge. They've never taught before. They've never been in anything about teaching. So how are they superb chairs? So people just get into these offices because maybe somebody wants them to be in the office for whatever reasons. The reasons would be like this, like the issues people have talked about. In most of the states that I have worked, one thing I can tell you is that the quality of teachers is very low. And these people, the accusations that people are being engaged because they were political talks for leaders is indeed true. I have come across people who said after the elections, this was what they got. So teaching is now becoming a compensation. That when somebody doesn't have a job, you say you've not found a job. Even teaching, how can teaching be even? So the truth is there is a huge issue in terms of people per teacher ratio, and it is mostly in schools in underserved communities. Because like you said, Dr. Akwito said here, I'm not sure whether I got the name correctly, the issue is that the schools in the city, they have more teachers than the number. But the schools in the interior, they have less number of teachers. And the reasons is, one of the major reasons is that I don't finish the university or finish a college education and my dream is to go and teach in a village where there's no incentive to take me to. So we need to get to this point where we understand that for a teacher to be interested in going to a community somewhere that is underserved, there must be something that encourages the teacher to go there. Two, you can keep these teachers for some time and then also transfer others. But even the politicians bring their children who are not interested in teaching, but they teach in the meantime. So teaching is like a job you do.
A stopgap.
A stopgap. You do this work until when something comes up. Now, anywhere where you have these kind of things, there'll be there'll be a big challenge, and will continue to be like that. So there are some states that are doing well, and then there are some states that are not doing well at all. These states actually scare me that in the nearest future, maybe this mandatory we have now that talk about, it's coming from the plethora of ignorance, whether we like it or not. And if we continue allowing people to be ignorant, we are going to have more hoodlums than we ever expect. That means our children will not sleep.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Hayab. Let me add two more messages to Dr. Shiombo to take along. Now, this one is from Ibn Jibrin. He said, Happy World Teachers Day, and he said, this issue of training and retraining that the Secretary General of NUT is talking about should be strengthened to capture even teachers in the rural and satellite towns and remote areas who need these trainings more due to inadequacy of basic necessities and tools that will improve teaching and learning, especially in this modern era. And this one is from Taiwo, from Ore, Ondo State. Say thank you very much for the teacher-related program. Mine is, 1, teachers need special salary structure like the doctors. Teachers in the rural areas should be encouraged with incentives like good accommodation, rural area allowance, etc., and there should be special loan outfit for teachers where they can get money at very low interest rate to finance their personal projects. And finally, my name is Ukeolim from Cross River, and I suggest that staff of the TRCN should be reintegrated into the federal payroll so as to boost their morale in carrying out their assignments in regulating the teaching profession. So, over to you.
Thank you very much. I like the last one. Thank you so much for that.
That's all.
So that's a very good one. But we are definitely working on that. And I see that, I see us coming out of that problem very soon. Thank you so much for that. Now, in terms of special salaries, I agree with everything that people have said, really. Because don't forget that when I started, I said, there's no doubt about it that we need to raise the profile of teachers. I'll give myself as an example. When I was in England as a teacher, I was earning the same amount of money that a member of parliament was earning, Tessa Jawas to be precise. And with that, it gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a sense of belonging, really. And to me, that's where we're driving ourselves to, that how can we raise the profile of teachers? Because if not, you will keep on having dregs. They will believe that this is a dumping ground for people that are not successful. And that's something that we need to change in our narrative. And we're not going to lie about that there's a need for us to review and revamp our recruitment process, even how we take people to schools as well.
Okay.
I mean, some people will tell you that if you are able to score 100, you get into teaching. For God's sake, in those days, it was never like that.
Yes.
Because when we did education here in Nigeria, every one of us, you will see us competing even with medical doctors, because our target was quite high as at that time. But that's something we need to look into. Now, embracing education, for it not to remain static, there's a need for that. There is a lot of needs for that. I want to say thank you to all the people that have said it. Now, where they're saying government is not doing enough, government is not doing enough across the board, but at the same time, don't forget that at the federal level, there is a lot of work going on. How states will embrace it also matters, because some states will embrace it well, some states will not see it as a priority.
Okay.
So there is a need for us to see how this can be at the front burner of every governor, really, of how we, because if we're going to develop our states, we need to develop education, we need to develop our classes. And something I tell people is, don't just develop the hardware, because you will see a lot of states, they would have built a lot of classes, but at the same time, they're not building trainings, they're not building the students. Where we still have classes with few teachers, that's not really good for us. I remember there was, I think when I first became the special advisor, where we were actually evaluating what was happening in schools, we saw there was a school that had 253 children with only 2 teachers for good 4 years when we took over, you know. And in fact, I was completely livid with that how on earth are these children performing, you know? And those are the kind of children we're going to be churning out to say they are graduates. Why are we not going to have children on the street? We will have them on the street. So in order for us to address out of school problems, to address all this problem, there's a need for a roundtable meeting with education, that how can everybody at all levels, leaders at all levels, must be able to see education as a priority, really. Thank you.
Okay, I have these 2 comments, questions. It's for you, Madam. It says, good morning, this is Onwara PZ from Enugu. Please, can't the TRCN give out this certificate and license free of charge to merited teachers as a support to teachers, instead of asking teachers to pay for it? Then the second one says, hello, good morning, Nigeria. My name is Aisha from Lagos. My own question is, how long does it take to get the TRCN certificate? We have had the exams since 2021 in my school, and yet to get the certificate, only few were released then, and we're told the remaining ones will be released soon. It's been 4 years now, and ever since then, we have not heard from anything from them. Thank you. Dr.
I
Shelby.
want to apologize to those wonderful teachers that are asking me questions. I remember when I was actually given this position, a lot of people greeting me or congratulating me online. It was all about, oh, Ronke, I've done this exam in the last 3 years. I'm yet to get my certificate. I'm yet to get my license. And also, some people said, by the way, what is TRCN? So I realized that feasibility was nil. And with that was what actually determined our first target.
Okay.
And that's why we did the data and digitization. So for all those people that are talking, please, I expect them to go online. It's www.trcn.gov.ng. www.trcn.gov.ng. If people can actually, when they go online now, they can update themselves, and it automatically takes them to how they can collect their certificates and their licenses. And also, for people that are yet to do the exam, there is Match B, which is the second exam that is coming up this year, and that's coming up in November. The deadline for that exam for people to register is the 31st of October. So please, people can register online as quickly as possible for the forthcoming exam. If they register everything that you do in terms of verification, within 2 days, somebody will verify your certificate. They will upload you into the next level. And as soon as you sit for your exam, we have the service level agreement of just 1 week to release your result. And when your result is released to you, you receive the SMS from us that congratulations, you have passed our exam. You may now proceed to the next stage of printing your own certificates in the comfort of your home. Because I don't need to start sending certificates home to people anymore. We can do that at the comfort of our houses. And for the person that has asked me that, why do they need to pay for certificates and licenses? Sorry, we have to be funded as well. We're not funded at the moment, and that's how we can fund ourselves with 539 staff in Nigeria, because we are all over in all the 36 states of Nigeria. So
and the FCT as well.
And the FCT as well. So there's a lot of work for us to do. And also those resources that we're talking about, they're not cheap. They don't come out cheap.
No.
So we've got to actually remunerate ourselves for it. And that's why we're collecting money. And the money they are collecting, you see that the prices are very, very low. Because we always think of teachers. And we always take them as our priority, because my chairman, for example, the chairman of the council, in fact, if he can get his way right, he wouldn't even ask any teacher in Nigeria to pay.
Dr. Shiobo, because of time, we just have to stop you there.
Okay.
So let's get the party shot, 30 seconds from Dr. Ekwiti.
Yeah, first of all, I think allow me also give a rider to what Madam has said concerning the questions from our teachers. It is a professional obligation. Yeah, you know, not that it's because of the way we find ourselves. If not, we should be able to be proud to be members of a particular profession they're teaching. And by doing that, we should be able to part little doctors, you know, lawyers. They sponsor themselves to be in conferences and so on. And so it's not as if that is wrong. That one we agree. We are also talking to our teachers to ensure that they should be proud of their profession, and they should also perform
Teachers,
those,
be proud of your profession.
Yes,
Dr. Ohaya.
Let's prioritize education in Nigeria if the future is going to be bright.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. To actually change Nigeria, the change is not in the government, but the change is in the classroom. So let's give our children the best education that they deserve. Thank you.
Right, Dr. Ronke Shoyombo, Registrar and Chief Executive, Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, TRCN. We thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for coming. Let me also thank Dr. Clinton Ekwitibo, who is Secretary General, Nigeria Union of Teachers. We appreciate you coming. And Dr. Philip Hayab, an educationist, very much appreciate your time on the program and your perspectives.
Thank you.
We say World Teachers, happy World Teachers Day. My mom is one, and so it means a lot to me as well. I was raised by a teacher. We thank you so very much for watching. We hope you join us again tomorrow. I am Victor Azu.
And I'm Ademola Ade. Do join us again tomorrow, and have a lovely day.
Wow, look at that. Until recently, I had no idea what a pangolin was. But this thing is strong. It's a small mammal covered with scales made of keratin, just like our nails. Strong scales, man. The scales has no